Hey folks, happy Wednesday. Um, I'm going to go through some notes with you. If you want to grab a piece of paper or your notes from before, we'll add on. I have no editing software for this video. This is a one-shot deal. So I'm probably going to make some mistakes. Please forgive me. I will do my best. Okay, so we've been talking about Mendelian genetics. We've been looking at complete dominance, incomplete dominance, where traits blend together, codominance, where we actually see both phenotypes displayed. And today we're going to finish off this little section by looking at two more topics. And the first one is multiple alleles. So what we're looking at with multiple alleles is that some traits in organisms are controlled by more than two alleles. So like 3 or more. So we'll put down a quick note about that. Some traits controlled by 3 or more alleles. So instead of just 2 letters, or even 1 letter with capitals and lower cases, we're going to look at an example in people that is 3 alleles, although an individual only ever has 2. So for example, in humans, I want to talk about blood types. And some of you maybe have heard about the blood types before. Some of you maybe haven't, so this might be new. But in humans, for blood types, there are 3 alleles. And we'll talk about how these alleles combine to give different individuals different blood types. So those 3 alleles are A, B, and O. And I'm actually trying to do a lowercase o there versus a capital O. Not that it really matters, but we'll see why in a minute. Now with those 3 alleles, here's what's kind of cool. There's a bit of an interaction that we need to know. So alleles A and B are codominant with each other. Codominant with each other. So A doesn't dominate over B and B doesn't dominate over A. If you've got an A and a B allele, if you got one from mom and one from dad, then you actually have type AB blood. Remember, codominance means they both show up. It's not like a blend between the two. They're just both there. So A and B are codominant with each other. And then what's really interesting is that A and B are both dominant over O-type blood. And that's why I have showed that O is a lowercase. But again, it doesn't really matter. So, just to put this together so that we can see how the genotypes and phenotypes relate to each other, let's make a little table. Let's say we'll make a column for phenotype, and then we'll make a column for genotype. Again, you can draw lines or not, it doesn't matter. So the phenotype is going to be the actual type of blood that's out there. And some of you might know that with these alleles that we've got, the A, the B, and the O, there's actually 4 blood types that are present in human beings. Some people have type A blood. So let's think about, for somebody who's type A, what possible genotypes do they have? Remember that you're always going to have 2 of these alleles, because you get one from mom, you get one from dad. You'll never have 3. Doesn't work that way. But you'll have 2 of 3. So a type A phenotype, if you have type A blood, and if you don't know, I would suggest and recommend that when you're 18, I think you have to be this old, when you're 18, go donate blood. Save somebody's life, and they'll do a little blood test for you. It's actually kind of cool. So type A blood. You could have the genotype capital A, capital A. So you got a capital A from mom and a capital A from dad. Or you could have gotten a capital A from one parent. Remember, it's dominant over O. So if you have an A and an O, then you're still type A. Because A is codominant with B, but it's completely dominant over O. So that's one blood type. Another one is type B. So it's the same sort of game. Our genotype would be, or could be, capital B, where you got one of each of those B alleles from mom and dad. Or, I don't mean you're smelly here, you could be BO, where one parent gave you a B and one gave you an O, but B dominates over O. There is type AB blood. And that's the example of codominance between these 2 alleles. So there's only one genotype that works there. That means you got an A from one parent and a B from another. And there's one last type here, type O blood. And remember, O is recessive. It's the one that gets dominated by the others. So in order to have type O blood, the only way that's possible is if you're homozygous recessive, if you got O's from both parents. So there's a worksheet that's going to get you to practice this kind of stuff a little bit more. But let's just quickly, to keep this video semi-short, let's just quickly go through one example. Let's say we take a mom who is AO, and she has kids with a dad who is BO. So a type A blood mom and type BO dad. Sorry, I should have said dad is. Let's see what we get for a cross there. So we run our Punnett squares that we're hopefully getting used to. Let's put mom along the top just for fun. So she's AO. Dad is BO. Because guys are stinky. Just kidding. Well, maybe not. Let's see what we get when we cross these. So this first square, we want to put A's first if we can. So the first square, we get an AB. The second possibility in this square top right is going to be a BO. Third possibility bottom left is an AO. And then your last possibility is a just double O. So it's pretty easy to see the allele combinations. It's kind of 25% of each allele. But let's think about blood types. This person, AB, is going to have type AB blood. So they're 25%. This person, BO, what kind of blood do they have? You're all shouting out the answer even though I can't see you. That person's going to be type B. So there's a 25% chance of that. This person right here, A and O, A dominates over O, 25% chance that one is a type A. And then your double O, that means your O-type blood, you've got a 25% chance. So of those 4 blood types, you got a 25% chance of all of them. A, B, O, 25% across the board. Let's just do that to be efficient. So there's a worksheet that goes with this that you'll practice after the video. Give it a go. I'm obviously going to go into one more thing here, but give the blood typing questions a go, and I'm sure the TOC will help you out, or you can hang on to those questions for Friday too. So let's see. One last topic, looking into Mendelian genetics. So this last topic is called sex-linked traits. And it has to do with traits, alleles, that are on the sex chromosomes. So I'm actually going to switch over to a PowerPoint. Don't copy anything from this, but it's kind of an interesting little story. So Henry VIII, is that right? I think so. V is 5, 6, 7, 8. You can correct me if I'm wrong on Friday. Was a British monarch who was desperate to have a son as an heir, somebody to take over his throne. He had 6 wives, and he just kept having daughters with all these wives, and he blamed them. He said, come on, I want to have a son, I want an heir. He finally did end up with one son, who became heir. I don't know what happened to these wives who weren't producing sons for him, probably something not very nice, unfortunately. But I guess the big question is, who's really responsible in the end for the gender of a baby? So is it mom? Is it dad? Is it random chance? So I just want to walk you through how this works if you've never seen it before. Again, don't worry about copying all of this down. You can see the pictures. So you have 23 pairs of chromosomes in all of your cells. I think we maybe have talked about that. You have 46 in total. They're pretty much all the same between males and females with one exception, and that's these sex chromosomes. So there's X and Y, and you can see they're actually even a different size. The X is quite a bit larger than the Y. So let me walk you through sort of what this looks like then. How does this apply to what we're talking about? So sex-linked traits. Males have, so this you can go back and start adding in your notes if you don't mind. Males have, to make them male, they have an X and a Y chromosome. So they have one of each of those. And if that wasn't clear, I'll put that. So they have one X chromosome and one Y chromosome. So all males, when you look at your chromosomes, what makes you male is that you have an X and a Y. Females, on the other hand, females have 2 X chromosomes. So females don't have a Y chromosome. They just have 2 copies of X. So males are going to be XY, and females are XX. And then we've got actually 22 other pairs of chromosomes that would be all the same then. But that's what separates males from females. And there actually is, if you get down into the nitty-gritty, there are variations on this where DNA doesn't separate properly during the formation of sex chromosomes, and you can have people that actually end up with 3 sex chromosomes, XXY, XYY. You can end up with weird combinations just by fluke through mutations, but we won't get into those. So I guess to go back and answer that question, who is responsible for determining the sex of children? Because remember, Henry the, what was it, 8th, blamed his wife. It sort of looks like this. Let's take a look at like a male and a female that decide to have kids, just in terms of the sex of their children. So if we run a Punnett square for this, dad is always going to give an XY, an X or a Y, I should say. Mom is always going to give an X or an X. So if you look at their chances of having kids, this is maybe no surprise. XX, that's female. XY, that's male. XX, that's female. XY, that's male. So I think you know this, and the percentages are so close if you look at sexes in different populations that it's 50-50. So female and male, you got a 50% chance of having a female, a daughter, or you've got a 50% chance if you decide to have kids of having a son, a male. It's 50-50. Again, that's the percentages, that's what they'd estimate. That's not always the case though. Like in my family, I'm one of 4 boys. My parents had 4 boys. So they just kept getting XYs just by a random chance. Now, I guess I should maybe answer the question, who's responsible for determining gender? Well, it is random. But in order to have a boy, a female can never produce the Y chromosome. Right? So, like in my family, my parents have 4 sons. That means just all of us by fluke ended up getting the Y from dad, and then one of the X's from mom. Had we gotten, mom can only give an X. Had we have gotten an X from dad as well, I wouldn't be Josh Heinrich, I might be Sarah Heinrich, right? Mrs. Heinrich, because I'd be female. So can you say that it's dad that determines the gender? Not really, it's random chance. But in order to have a male, you know the Y had to come from dad. That's all. What's kind of cool about sex-linked traits, though, is that sometimes these chromosomes can be responsible for or carry alleles that are responsible for some characteristics in people. So flipping back to this PowerPoint, don't copy this stuff down because I'll go back to the other screen, we'll write it down. Yeah, so like it says here, along with determining gender, those sex chromosomes, the X and Y, sometimes have other genes that control different characteristics. One example is something that can cause color blindness in people. So there is an allele on the X chromosome. And it says that here. The X chromosome often contains genes that the Y chromosome doesn't. So there is color blindness in some people. It is a gene, an allele, that is on the X chromosome. So here's what this kind of looks like. The most common type of color blindness, there's multiple kinds. The most common type of color blindness is being unable to distinguish between red and green. So quite often we just call that red-green color blindness. Here's, I guess, what somebody with normal vision would see. Maybe that's you. Very likely that's you. And somebody who's red-green colorblind, this is what we think the balloons might look like. Where the greens and the reds just kind of all blend into like a weird greeny brown color. Now that gene that controls color blindness is only on the X chromosome. It doesn't show up on the Y chromosome. In fact, I don't think there's any sex-linked traits that are on the Y chromosome. It's always on the X chromosome. So let's look at color blindness as an example. So under sex-linked traits, let's put a little EG. So for example, color blindness. And I've had a few students who are colorblind. A few of them shared that with me. It's kind of neat if you think about the science behind it. Maybe not so neat that they would have difficulty telling go from stop on a traffic light, but I'm sure they work it out. So let's make a little chart for color blindness, kind of like we did for the blood types. So let's do this. Gender, we'll make that a column. I'm going to switch up the order a little bit. Then let's go genotype. And then let's have a column of phenotype. And we'll just match them across. Again, you can drag some vertical lines down there if you want or not. It doesn't matter. All right, so let's look here. Female, there's actually 3 versions of female that we can have here. And we'll talk about the different combos. Remember, females have double X for their sex chromosomes. The other thing I should mention about color blindness. Sorry, let's go put this in. N represents normal vision. It's dominant, completely dominant, and then lowercase n. I'm doing this in red and green, by the way, so if you can't tell the difference, maybe you are colorblind. Little n is colorblind. So that's the allele that leads to color blindness. And n dominates, the normal vision, the capital N, dominates over the little n. So if we see an individual with a capital N and a lowercase n, then they've got normal vision. The only way that you can be colorblind is if you only have lowercase n's. So let's see what this looks like. For females then, we know that they have to be XX. Maybe just leave yourself a bit of space between the X's. So all the females are XX. And then we know that each of these X alleles is going to have one of the N's, either the dominant normal vision or the recessive colorblind allele. So let's put those in. You could have a female who has the normal vision allele on both X chromosomes. So normal and normal. You're always going to have an N attached to one of these X's because that's where we find this gene or this allele. Now, as soon as we see a capital N, we know, since it's completely dominant, that this person is normal vision. I'll just put normal. That hopefully is an easy one. What about this combination? There's another option. What if they have one normal vision allele and one colorblind allele? Again, we normally like to show the dominant one first, but it doesn't really matter. This person, even though they carry the allele for colorblindness, we'd call this person a carrier. Even though they carry that allele, the normal vision dominates, so they still have normal vision. And then there's a third option. What if that female had a colorblind allele on one X and a colorblind allele on another? Well, now in this case, if you have both recessive, if you're homozygous recessive, you are colorblind. So that would be the genotype for a colorblind female. Now that's actually quite rare in the population. There are way more colorblind males than females. So let's see, by looking at the male genotypes, let's see if we can figure out why that's the case. Why are males more likely to be colorblind? And of the students I've had, never had a female colorblind student, but I've had several male students that are colorblind, even a colorblind or two colleague. So we know for males that they are XY. Now you have to remember that the Y chromosome, it doesn't have an N on it. It doesn't carry the allele for colorblindness. It's only on the X. So it turns out there's only two options for male. They have a single X. And if that single X chromosome has the normal vision allele, then they obviously have normal vision. But the only other option, because the Y chromosome doesn't have an N, these things don't show up on the Y chromosome, it's a stumpy little thing. They're only on the nice big X chromosome. The only other option for a male then is if you had an X with a lowercase n. And there's no opportunity here for like a capital N to dominate over the lowercase n. So this male would be colorblind. So hopefully you can see from this that males are more likely to be colorblind, because if they get only one copy of this recessive allele, one lowercase n, boom, they're automatically colorblind. There is no chance to have a capital N to dominate over the lowercase n. Whereas in females, like in this situation right here, this female got a lowercase n, but they had normal vision because thankfully they had this capital N to dominate over the colorblind allele. Whereas males, we don't have that sort of option. If we get one even copy of that colorblind allele, then we're not going to see our reds and greens quite right. All right, let's finish off these notes. Lots of talking like normal, even when I'm not here. Oh, Mr. Heinrich, why are you doing this to us? Sorry. See, I'm weird even when I make videos. Let's do this. Let's take, I'm just going to make something up on the fly here. Let's take a normal vision male. So dad has normal vision. And let's cross with, I mentioned this term, but let's write it down officially, a carrier female. So when we talk about sex-linked traits, carrier means heterozygous. It's just a special name we use for a special case. So carrier means heterozygous. And I'll shorten it up a little bit to make life easy. So before we run our Punnett square, let's figure out sort of what the x's and y's look like, and then what the capital N's and lowercase n's look like. So a normal male is going to be xy. The male tells you the x and the y. And if they have normal vision, that means they must have just that one copy on the X chromosome of the normal vision allele. Your carrier female, mom over here, females we know are XX, and carrier means you have that recessive allele but you don't show it because it's getting dominated. It means they're heterozygous. So this female will have X with a capital N, but they've also got that color blindness gene in there as well, X with a lowercase n. So let's do a quick Punnett square here to finish off using those two. And then let's look at our chances of children's. All right, let's put dad along the side here. X, Y, and dad has the normal vision allele on his X chromosome. Let's put mom across the top. She is a carrier, which means she's heterozygous. She's got a dominant N and a recessive lowercase n. So let's cross these and see what we get. This is going to be a female, X and X, and they're both capital N's. So that's going to be a normal vision female, and not even a carrier, just straight old normal vision. This top right hand corner is another female, X and X, but this female has a capital N and a lowercase n. So this female here is a carrier. They have normal vision, but they carry the allele that leads to color blindness. If you look at the bottom, we have XY, and we dropped the normal vision allele onto this one, X with a capital N. And then if you look at, this corner, bottom right, we have another XY, but this X is the lowercase n. So that's going to be a colorblind male. So what's very interesting about this situation, let me actually move this over. me try that again. There's the mistake. Remember I said this is on the fly, no editing. Ha! Almost got there. If we look at what we've got for females, what are your chances of having a colorblind female? Well, this female is normal vision with 2 capital N's obviously, but so is this one. They have that capital N hiding the recessive colorblind allele. So for females, they're 100% normal vision. These 2 individuals could not have a colorblind daughter. 100% normal. But if you look at the males in their offspring, we have this male here, X with a capital N, that means normal, and then Y doesn't get the allele for colorblindness. So that individual is normal. So there's a 50% chance of having a son with normal vision. So if this couple has a son, 50% chance it's normal in terms of color vision, but for their son, check this out, there's also a 50% chance that they'll get the X with the little n. So it's interesting. There is, if it's a boy, there is a 50-50 chance that that son could be colorblind. So pretty high odds, right? And that's because there's no N on the Y chromosome to possibly cover up this colorblind one right here. I won't go over any more examples. What I'd like you to try, assuming there's a couple of minutes, and even if there's a few minutes, humor me, humor the TOC, see if you can get started on this. There is a worksheet on the 2 things we've looked at, multiple alleles, and then these sex-linked traits. So give that a try. If you get stuck, ask a friend, ask the TOC, or save the questions for me on Friday. We'll see you then. If you have questions between now and then that you need me to answer, fire me an email. I will check today, Wednesday. I will check tomorrow, even though there's no school, Thursday. And I will see you back here on Friday. Thanks for hanging in there, folks. Have a good couple of days. We'll see you soon.